Hello and welcome to the video. This is a video and overview of this thing here. This is the Flex25 from SpeedyBee. Now this is out today, but I've been lucky enough to get my hands on it a couple of weeks early and have been flying it and putting it through its paces. Now this looks like a lot of the kind of cine-drone style of models, 2.5 inch, but it does something a little bit special. It's actually overlapping the props at the bottom, and the props are staggered so that they're not in the same plane, along with some really cute touches on the frame as well. Now SpeedyBee started out with some very basic products, and I still use a lot of their things like the SpeedyBee adapter, which allows you to plug any flight controller and then access the settings on your phone for things like iNav and Betaflight and other stuff now as well. So surprise, surprise, the all-in-one flight controller that's in here connects to the SpeedyBee app. But they've done some other really cute things with the design as well, which means that this is available in analog, which is what I have here, but you can also get it in digital versions too. So how does it perform? How does having the motors at this staggered layout actually affect the way that it flies? So while I unbox this thing, let's talk about the specs. So this has about a 28% smaller wheelbase than the majority of the other 2.5 inch cine style like this. And again, it has a really weird staggered motor design. I'll give you some more close-up views of that in a moment, where two of the motor mounts are actually offset, so the blades are actually overlapping. As well as the quadcopter in the box, you also get a number of cables so that you can put in a nice lightweight action camera on this to get your cinematic footage. So there's a cable for the GoPro 8, there's one that will fit the GoPro 6 and 7, and there's also two cables for things like the RunCam Thumb series. Now there is the optional DJI digital FPV system that goes in here, and because of the design of this thing, it means that it's very easy to put the air unit at the back behind the flight controller and then route it all around. It's made with a very durable bumper style case. Mine has the LEDs around the outside, available in different colours. I happen to have the blue ones here, and it has the world's first F7 35 amp Bluetooth all-in-one flight controller in the middle that connects to the SpeedyBee app and is nicely protected and covered by carbon fibre. It is easy binding as well. In this one here you can see that I have gone for the TBS Nano version. The TBS Nano is in this little box at the top, and even better, they've also still provided easy access to the bind button. Flipping it over, you can see that the VTX is underneath it, and that is the perfect place for that DJI system, as I've already mentioned. The battery sits across the model, kind of saddle style, and then behind the camera is the position for your lightweight action camera, and then beside those a couple of the ports are exposed, including the USB port. Now in terms of setting the Betaflight setup, just be aware that if you plug this into a computer using a USB cable, it will not power the flight controller. However, if you power this thing from a battery, then surprise surprise, you can access and change everything and do what you need to do on the SpeedyBee app via your phone or tablet. However, when it is powered, it also means you can plug it into the computer. So let's take a very quick look at the Betaflight setup. So let's click on connect and go through the basics. So again, this is the Flex25. I've had to power it from the battery in order to get everything. The data flash is full, which is good. It means it's been flown before it was sent to me. And I'm going to go through expert mode. Nothing really imports apart from the control of the VTX via Tramp, and then we have 8K gyro and PID loops, but again this is an F7 base flight controller in this thing, so it's only ticking over at a couple of percent. Again, nothing exciting in here. The LED strip is turned on, but that doesn't actually run the LED strip, the optional LED strip that's around the outside. Power and battery looks like this. And then as I run through the rest of it, what I'll do is I'll put a dump and diff of the settings of this thing. I'll put a link to them below if you want to download them and have a look. It's running a pretty modern version of Betaflight. You can see here that it does warn that there may be flyaways and motor damage, but in the stuff that I've been doing here, it's a very smooth gentle flyer, exactly what you want. Two places I would recommend you come into. I'm not a fan of the way that the modes are laid out. That's not how I tend to have it. Every pilot has their own particular way. And the other thing I do is jump into the OSD and move things around as well. The camera has been supplied, the little RunCam one that's part of this analog setup is NTSC, so you do lose a little bit of vertical height. Hovering it around indoors before we take it to the field, you can hear how much noise there is, and also you can see how incredibly bright that blue light is. Even in direct sunshine, it's very easy to see. And they have also set it up. There isn't a separate model finding buzzer on this, but they have set up the beeper for the motor stuff, which is pretty loud, which is going to help you find it if it lands somewhere where you weren't expecting. In terms of flying, there are absolutely no surprises. With the exception of the amount of noise that it generates, it is very, very loud. And I guess that's partially because those props are overlapping as much as they do. It has provided a much more compact quad, but it does mean that there are, I guess, are more losses and turbulent air underneath, and that is where a lot of that noise is coming from. I think we're also paying a slight penalty in terms of the efficiency of this thing as well. But as you can see here, this is analog DVR footage straight out the Fat Shark goggles. It performs beautifully. Now, it does reckon you're going to get about 8 minutes for the analog version and probably about half of that for the DJI version. I think that is only achievable if you are very careful about the batteries that you are choosing. A 4S 850 mAh is what they reckon, and I think if you're going to get one of those, get a really high C, very good quality battery to get the maximum amount of flight time. In summary, there's a lot to like about this. SpeedyBee have done a very cute job and given some really interesting design choices to make this a very small, powerful, fun little filming quad. I do like the robust and compact design, perfect for flying closer into things. The props are nicely protected. I do like the fact that the flight controller is also covered as well, because when it lands there is a chance of it kicking up something from the ground into the bottom of the flight controller. I like the idea that the USB has moved off to the side so you can still access it easily from the top. Shame it doesn't power the flight controller from that port, but it does mean that it's easy to plug into the computer when you want to change everything. I like the fact it's been designed as plug and play for the FPV system. On mine, there is the little camera at the front from RunCam, and then we have, I think it's an 800 milliwatt VTX at the back with the Nano at the top. However, you can remove those pieces, and you can also, with the kit, swap it over if you buy the analog one, I guess, to swap it over to the DJI system, although you can get the DJI version straight from them directly too. I do like the fact that there are camera mounts in the box for various skinny action cameras, as well as the cables and the setup for the Betaflight stuff, so that it's ready to attach whatever it is that you want to fly. And I do actually like the LED strip too. When you're flying indoors, particularly in lower light, it does a good job of illuminating where you're going to fly to. Only a couple of things to be aware of with this. First one is that at the time of making this, I haven't seen the final pricing. Looks like it's going to be about $20 more, so very similar pricing to similar 2.5-inch cine whoop style models like this from people like iFlight, GepRC, HGLRC, those kind of guys. So it's pretty competitive. However, it does have things like higher VTX output, and obviously it's much smaller and compact than most. Flight times are a little bit shorter than I would like, unless you are using a really, really good battery. So make sure if you get one of these, get yourself an 850 4S battery and get the best quality one that you can. 8 minutes on this is supposed to be possible. I was getting about 6 before I was getting into trouble. The DJI HD one, it's an awful lot less time in the air, more like about 3 or 4 minutes. Remember, the USB port doesn't power it, so if you get this and plug it into the computer and nothing lights up and turns on, that's exactly as it's supposed to be. Just power it from the battery and away you go. And the LED stuff around the outside isn't controlled by the LED, but there is a little switch on the board at the back. I think that's available as an option as well, so you can turn it on and off if you want to limit the current draw. In summary, this is a very impressive little quad for getting filming shots. I do like the fact that SpeedyBee started out making cool gadgets and a fab little app for setting up your model at the field, and this is a very well designed quad that does some funky things very well. The only thing that I would add to this would be a lost model beeper. Just pop one on there somewhere so that if you were flying around, particularly in the places that I do, over fields of what are now corn and things like rapeseed, then if it went in because you were pushing the battery or you were maybe trying to get a little bit close and you clip something, you had a chance of actually finding it. But this is perfect for those who are looking for a 2.5-inch kind of filming quad where you want the most compact size and you don't care about the slightly shorter flight times and the noise. Thank you for spending your time today watching that video. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you're trying to learn about a subject, then check out the playlist. All of my videos are organized into easy to follow playlists that if you're trying to learn a topic will take you from the basics right the way through to some pretty advanced stuff.